You know, sometimes I think there is something different about me, not like everyone else. I don't just want sex, I want it different. The kind that people don't talk about. The kind they're afraid to even think about. What about me? I live this shit. Every day. It was a vague feeling at first. In high school, when all the girls were pining for the guys on the soccer team, I imagined something different. What if he tied my hands? What if he told me to shut up? What if he took me so I couldn't move or breathe? But I didn't say anything, because I knew if I told anyone they'd call me a whore, an outcast, a head case. But really, I just wanted to feel alive. And regular sex? It's like eating without salt. Boring, bland, tasteless. The first time it happened was when I was 17. My boyfriend back then was so predictable. Flowers, movies, romantic words. It was all in the manual. But one night, while we were doing it, I said to him, "Hold me harder." He looked at me like I was crazy. "What are you doing?" he asked. And then he started saying that I was too young for that kind of fantasy. And you know what? After that, I shut down. I decided I was going to pretend I was just like everyone else, so no one would know that I had this shit going on inside of me. But time was running out. And the more I tried to be right, the stronger this desire became. It was like someone inside me kept whispering, "You want more. You want the forbidden. You want the dark." And then I met him. Let's call him D. He was older, 20 years older, maybe more. And you know what the weirdest thing was? From the first time I saw him, I knew he knew. He knows everything about me, even things I was afraid to think about. The first night, he just watched me. We drank wine, talked about some bullshit. But the look in his eyes, God, that look, it was like he saw right through me. Saw a part of me that I'd been hiding for years. "Tell me," he said at one point. "What do you want?" I froze. I wanted to lie, to say something trite, but instead, pause. Hell, I told him everything. About my fantasies, about being turned on by pain, control, roughness, what others call perversion. He listened in silence, and then he smiled, a cold, confident smile, and he said, "I can give you what you want, but there's one condition." "What's that?" I asked. No questions, no regrets, just trust. It was like jumping into an abyss. I knew if I said yes, there was no turning back. But something inside me was screaming, "Go for it. Take a chance." The first night with him was incredible. He tied my hands with a silk scarf. Not tight, but enough to make me feel helpless. Then he made me kneel, waiting, to feel every sound around me. Every second of waiting. "You're mine," he whispered. "You'll do whatever I say." And you know what? I did. I did everything, no exceptions. His touch was different. Not soft like the others. Hard, demanding, sometimes even painful. But that pain, it was exactly what I needed. It woke me up, made me feel every cell in my body. He taught me things I'd only dreamed of before. Submission, relinquishment of control, total surrender. And you know what? It was fucking arousing. Background? Pen rustles on paper. But the scariest part wasn't what he was doing to me. It's what I started to realize. That my whole life before him was just an act. I played the good girl role because I was afraid of being weird. And really, I'd always wanted to be a slave. His slave. Sometimes I lie awake at night and think, why are we so afraid of what we want? Why does society decide what's normal and what's not? Why do we have to conform to other people's standards instead of living our own truth? You know how that works? We've all grown up in a world where we're told, be a good girl, smile, don't argue, do what's expected of you. And then when we start to realize that our true desires don't fit within that framework, we start to hide them, be ashamed of them, hate ourselves for them. But why? Why do we let others decide what is right and wrong? Why are we afraid to be ourselves? Why do we choose to live a lie instead of taking the risk to find our truth? I think of my girlfriends. They're all so perfect. They have the right relationship, the right sex. They never admit that they're missing something, that they might want something else too, but they're afraid of being judged, afraid of being rejected. And me, I'm not afraid anymore, because I know one thing. Each person has to decide for himself what is normal for him, what's natural for him, what's right for him. And if someone doesn't like it, I don't care. It's their problem, not mine. As I write this, I realize that I can't go back to a normal relationship. Normal sex for me now is like a black and white movie after IMAX. Empty. Meaningless. Sometimes I wonder if I'm normal. Maybe I'm sick. But then I remember the look in his eyes, his hands, his voice, and I realize I don't care. Because for the first time in my life, I feel like me. The real me. I remember once reading an article about the psychology of sexual desire. The author wrote that each person has unique needs, that there is nothing normal or abnormal. There is only what works for you and what doesn't. And you know what? It's true. When I allow myself to be me, when I allow myself to feel what I feel, I become stronger, freer, more alive. But then why do so many people live in fear? Why do they hide their desires? Why do they let society dictate how they live their lives? Maybe because it's easier to be like everyone else. It's easier to follow the rules than to find your own way. It's easier to wear a mask than to be yourself. He's waiting for me now. Same place, in the same room. And I know that tonight he's gonna do whatever he wants to me again. And I'll be glad. You know what the funny thing is? People think they're free, that they can choose. But the truth is, they're just afraid to admit what they really want. And me? I'm not afraid anymore. If you're reading this and think I'm crazy, think again. Maybe it's you who is afraid to be you. Maybe you're the one hiding your desires. Maybe you're the one living a lie.